Jeremiah chapter 49, against surrounding nations. About Ammon's children, thus says Adonai, has Israel no sons? Has he no heir? Why then did Malcolm dispossess Gad, and his people settled in its towns? Therefore, behold, days are coming, it is a declaration of Adonai, when I will sound an alarm of war heard against the Rabbah of Ammon. It will become a mound of ruins, her villages will be burned with fire. Then Israel will dispossess those who dispossessed him. It is a declaration of Adonai. Wail Heshbon, for Ai is devastated. Cry, daughters of Rabbah, wear sackcloth, lament, and run to and fro within the walls. For Malcham will go into captivity together with his priests and princes. Why do you brag about valleys, your flowing valley, faithless daughter, trusting in your treasures? Who will come against me? I am about to bring terror on you, a declaration of Lord Adonai Zavat from all those around you. Each of you will be banished headlong, with no one to gather the fugitives. Yet afterward I will restore Ammon's children from exile. It is a declaration of Adonai. About Edom, thus says Adonai Zavad, is there no longer wisdom in Teman? Is counsel lost to the prudent? Has the heir wisdom vanished? Has their wisdom vanished? Flee, turn back, stay low, inhabitants of Dedan. So I will bring Esau's calamity on him. At that time I will punish him. If grape gatherers came to you, would they not leave gleanings? If thieves came at night, would they not destroy only enough for themselves? But I will strip Esau bare. I will uncover his hiding places, so he will not be able to hide himself. His offspring has been destroyed with his kinsmen and neighbors, so he is nothing. Leave your orphans, I will keep them alive. And let your widows trust in me, for thus says Adonai. Behold, if those who do not deserve to drink the cup must surely drink, can you go utterly unpunished? You will not go unpunished, for you shall surely drink. For I have sworn by myself, it is a declaration of Adonai, that Basra will become a horror, a disgrace, a waste, and a curse. All its towns will be ruins forever. I heard a message from Adonai, an ambassador sent to the nations. Gather together, come against her, and rise up for war. For see, I made you least among nations, despised among men. Your terrorism has deceived you, so that your heart is arrogant. You who live in the clefts of the rock, who occupy the height of the hill, though you make your nest as high as an eagle's, I'll bring you down from there. It is a declaration of Adonai. Edom will become a desolation. Everyone passing by will be appalled and hiss at all its plagues. Like the overthrow of Sodom, Gomorrah, and their neighbors, says Adonai, no one will live there, nor any son of man will dwell there. Look, it is like a lion coming up from the thickets of the Jordan to a secure pasture. For abruptly I will make him run away from it, appoint over it whomever I choose. For who is like me? Who will summon me to court? What shepherd stands up to me? Therefore, hear the plan that Adonai has drawn up against Edom, and his strategies that he designed against the inhabitants of Teman. Surely the least of the flock will be dragged away. Surely he will make their pasture desolate because of them. The earth will tremble at the noise of their downfall. The sound of their outcry will be heard at the sea of reeds. Behold, he will mount up and swoop down like an eagle, and spread out his wings against Basra. His hearts of Edom's warriors in that day will be like a woman's hearts in her pangs. About Damascus, Hamath, and Arpad are ashamed, for they have heard the news. They melt away in the sea. There is trouble that cannot be quiet. Damascus has become feeble. She turned away to flee. Panic grips her. Anguish and pangs have seized her like a woman in travail. How is the city of praise deserted, the city of my joy? Therefore her young men will fall in her squares, all her warriors will be silenced in that day. It is a declaration of Adonai Zavat. I will set fire to the wall of Damascus, it will devour Ben-Hadad's palaces. About Kedar, and of the kingdoms of Hazor, which Nebuchadrezzar king of Babylon struck, thus says Adonai. Arise, go up against Kedar and devastate the children of the east. They will take away their tents and their flocks. They will carry away their curtains, all their gear and their camels. They will outcry against them, terror on every side. Flee, scatter far, stay low, inhabitants of Hazor. It is a declaration of Adonai. For King Nebuchadrezzar of Babylon has taken counsel against you and devised a plan against you. Arise, go up against the nation of east, dwelling securely, says Adonai. They have no gates or bars. They dwell alone. Their camels will become plunder. Their many cattle a spoil. I will scatter to all the winds those who shave the edges. I bring their calamity from every side, is a declaration of Adonai. Hazor will be a lair of jackals, a desolation forever. No one will abide there, nor any son of man will dwell there. The word of Adonai that came to the prophet Jeremiah about Elam at the beginning of the reign of King Zedekiah of Judah, saying, thus says Adonai Zavat, behold, I will break Elam's bow, the source of their might. I will bring upon Elam the four winds from the four quarters of heaven, and will scatter them to the woo's winds. There will be no nation where the dispersed of Elam will not go. I will shatter Elam before their enemies, and before those seeking their soul. I will bring the calamity on them, my burning anger. It is a declaration of Adonai. I will send the sword after them until I have consumed them. Then I will put my throne in Elam, and destroy from its kings and princes. It is a declaration of Adonai. Yet it will be in the end of days that I will restore Elam from exile. It is a declaration of Adonai. The word that Adonai spoke about Babylon, about the land of the Chaldeans, Jeremiah 50 against Babylon, through the Jeremiah the prophet. Chaldeans, Jeremiah the prophet. Declare it among the nations and proclaim. Raise a banner, announce, hide nothing. Say Babylon will be captured, Bel put to shame, Merodach dismayed, her images disgraced, her idol shattered. For a nation comes up against her out of the land of the north, it will desolate her. No one will dwell there. They have fled, gone, both man and beast. A declaration of restoration. In those days and at that time it is a declaration of Adonai. The children of Israel will come together with the children of Judah, weeping as they come, and will seek Adonai their God. They will ask about Zion. The way here are their faces. Come. They will join themselves to Adonai in an everlasting covenant that will never be forgotten. My people have been lost sheep. Their shepherds led them astray, turning around in the mountains. They went from mountain to hill and forgot their resting place. Everyone finding them devoured them. Their foes said, "We are not guilty." Instead they sinned against Adonai, the habitation of justice. Adonai, the hope of their fathers. Doom of Babylon, free from within Babylon. Get out of the land of the Chaldeans, and be like he-goats before the flock. For I will soon stir up and bring against Babylon an alliance of great nations from the north. They will form battle lines against her. From there she will be captured. Their arrows will be like a warrior who bereaves, not returning empty. Chaldea will be a spoil. All who plunder her will be satisfied. It is a declaration of Adonai. Because you rejoice, because you exult, you who plunder my inheritance. Because you frolic like a trampling heifer and neigh like stallions, your mother will be utterly ashamed. She who bore you will be humiliated. Behold, the least of the nations will be a wilderness, a dry land, a desert. Because of Adonai's wrath, it will be uninhabited, all waste. Everyone who passes by Babylon will be appalled, hissing at all her wounds. Array against Babylon all around. All you who bend the bow, shoot at her, spare no arrows, for she has sinned against Adonai. Raise a war cry against her all around. She has thrown up her hands, her bulwarks are fallen, her walls are thrown down, for it is Adonai's vengeance. Take vengeance on her, as she has done, due to her. Cut off the sower from Babylon, and the one who wields a sickle in the time of harvest. Before the sword of the oppressor they will each turn to his people. Each will flee to his own land. Israel is a scattered flock. Lions have driven them away. First Assyria's king devoured him. The last who broke his bones was King Nebuchadrezzar of Babylon. Therefore thus says Adonai Zavat, the God of Israel, indeed I will punish Babylon's king and his land, just as I punished Assyria's king. I will bring Israel back to his pasture. He will feed in Carmel and Bashan, and his soul will be satisfied on the hills of Ephraim and Gilead. In those days and in that time it is a declaration of Adonai. Israel's guilt will be sought, but there will be none. Also for the sins of Judah, but they will not be found, for I will pardon those whom I leave as a remnant. Go up against the land of Merathaim, against the inhabitants of Pekod. Put them to the sword and utterly destroy them. It is a declaration of Adonai, and do all that I commanded you. The noise of battle is in the land of great crashing. How the hammer of the whole earth has been cut down and smashed. How Babylon has become a horror amongst the nations. I set a snare for you, so you were caught, O Babylon, when you were unaware. You were found and also caught because you challenged Adonai. Adonai has opened his armory and brought out the weapons of his indignation. For it is a work that my lord Adonai Zavat has to do in the land of Chaldea. Come against her from afar, open her granaries, pile her up like heaps, and utterly destroy her. Let nothing be left to her, to the sword with all her bulls going down to the slaughter. Oi to them, their day has come, the time of their visitation, the sound of fugitives escaping out of the land of Babylon, declaring in Zion the vengeance of Adonai our God, vengeance for his temple. Summon archers to Babylon, all who bend the bow, and camp against her all around. Let no one there escape. Repay her for her deed, as all she has done due to her, for she was arrogant against Adonai, against the Holy One of Israel. Therefore her young men will fall in her squares, all her warriors silenced in that day. It is a declaration of Adonai. Look, I am against you, arrogant one, declares my lord Adonai Zavat. For your day has come, the time when I will punish you. The arrogant will stumble and fall, and no one will lift him up. I will kindle fire in his cities, and it will devour all who are around about him. Thus says Adonai Zavat, the children of Israel and the children of Judah are pressed together. All their captors hold them fast. They refuse to let them go. Their Redeemer is strong. Adonai Zavat is his name. He will vigorously plead their case, so he may give rest to the earth, but trembling to the Babylonians. A sword is on the Chaldeans. It is a declaration of Adonai on Babylon's inhabitants and her officials and wise men, a sword to the diviners, fools, a sword on her warriors shattered, a sword on her horses, their chariots, and all the mixed people within her, so they will become like women, a sword in her treasure, so that they may be plundered. A drought is on her waters, so they will be dried up, for it is a land of idols. They are mad about horrible things, so wildcats and hyenas will live there, and ostriches settle there. It will never again be inhabited or dwelt from generation to generation, as when Elohim overthrew Sodom, Gomorrah, and their neighbor towns. It is a declaration of Adonai. So no man will live there, nor any son of man will dwell in it. Look, a people coming from the north, a great nation, and many kings will rise up from the ends of the earth. They grasp bow and javelin. They are cruel with no compassion. Their voice roars like the seas as they ride on horses, arranged as warriors for battle against you, daughter of Babylon. Babylon's kings heard news of them. His hands droop. Anguish grabs him, agony like a woman in labor. Look, it is like a lion coming up from the thickets of the Jordan to a secure pasture, for abruptly I will make him run away from it. I appoint over it whomever I choose, for who is like me? Who will summon me to court? What shepherd stands up to me? Therefore hear the plan that Adonai has drawn up against Babylon, and his strategies that he designed against the land of the Chaldeans. Surely the least of the flock will be dragged away. Surely he will make their pasture desolate because of them. The earth will tremble as the noise of Babylon's capture. The sound of their outcry will be heard among the nations. Jeremiah chapter 51. Apocalyptic vengeance. Thus says Adonai, look, stirring up against Babylon and those living in Lebkamai, a spirit of destruction. I will send strangers to Babylon to scatter her and to empty her land. For in the day of trouble they will be against her all around. Let the archer bend his bow at her. Let him rise up at her in his armor. Do not spare her young men. Destroy her whole army. They will fall down slain in the land of Chaldea. Thrust through her streets, for neither Israel nor Judah will be widowed by his God. Adonai Zavat, though their land is full of guilt before the Holy One of Israel, flee from within Babylon, each one, escape with a soul. Be not silenced in her iniquity, for it is a time of vengeance for Adonai. He will repay her recompense. Babylon has been a golden cup in Adonai's hand, intoxicating the whole earth, and the nations drunk her wine. So the nations are going crazy. Suddenly Babylon has fallen shattered. Howl over her. Bring balm for her wound. Perhaps she may be healed. When we would have healed Babylon, but she cannot be healed. Abandon her. Let's go. Each one to his own country, for her judgment has reached up to the heavens and has risen beyond the skies. Adonai has brought forth our vindication. Come, let us declare in Zion the work of Adonai Eloheinu. Sharpen the arrows, fill the quivers. Adonai has aroused the spirit of the king of the Medes, for his plan is against Babylon to destroy it, for it is Adonai's vengeance for his temple. Raise a banner at Babylon's walls, strengthen the guards, station watchmen, prepare ambushes, for Adonai has both planned and accomplished what he spoke about the Babylonians. You dwelling by many waters, rich in treasures, your end has come, the measure of your covetousness. Adonai Zavat has sworn by himself, surely I will fill you with men like a locust swarm, and they will shout cheers over you. Creator of all, judge of all. One made the earth by his power, set up by the world by his wisdom, and spread out the heavens by his knowledge. At his giving voice, tumult of waters in the skies. He causes clouds to rise up from the ends of the earth. He makes lightning for the rain and brings forth wind from his storehouses. All mankind is stupid, ignorant. Every goldsmith is disgraced by an idol, for his molten image is a lie. There is no breath in them. They are futile, a work of delusion. In that time of their visitation they will perish. Jacob's portion is not like these, for he is the informer of all things, including the tribe of his heritage. Adonai Zavat is his name. You are my club, a war weapon. With you I shatter nations. With you I destroy kingdoms. With you I wreck horse and rider. With you I wreck chariot and rider. With you I break man and woman. With you I break elder and youth. With you I break man and maid. With you I scatter shepherd and flock. With you I scatter plowmen and ox team. With you I scatter governors and officials. I will repay Babylon and all living in Chaldea for their evil that they did in Zion before your eyes. It is a declaration of Adonai. Beware, I am against you, destroyer of the mount. It is a declaration of Adonai. Destroyer of all the land, I will outstretch my hand at you. Roll you down from the cliffs and make you a burning hill. They will not even take from you a cornerstone or foundation stone, for you will be desolate forever. It is a declaration of Adonai. Raise a banner in the land, blow a shofar among the nations, consecrate the nations against her, summon against her kings, Erat, Minni, Ashkenaz, appoint a marshal against her. Bring horses up like rough locusts. Consecrate the nations against her, the kings of the Medes, its governors and all its deputies, and all the land of his dominion. Now the land shakes and writhes, for Adonai's plan against Babylon arise, to make the land of Babylon a desolation without inhabitant. Babylon's warriors cease fighting. They stay in their strongholds. Their might is exhausted. They have become like women. Her dwellings are set ablaze. Her gate bars are broken. One runner runs to meet another, and one messenger to meet another, to tell Babylon's kings that his city has been taken from end to end. The fords have also been seized, and the marshes burned with fire. So the warriors are in panic. For thus says Adonai Zavat, the God of Israel, the daughter of Babylon is like a threshing floor at the treading time, a little longer, and all the time of harvest for her will come. Nebuchadrezzar, king of Babylon, has devoured me, crushed me, set me aside like an empty dish, swallowed me up like a dragon, filled his belly with my delicacies, rinsed me away. The one dwelling in Zion says to me, let the violence done to me and my flesh be upon Babylon. Jerusalem says, my blood be on the Chaldeans. Therefore, thus says Adonai, yes, I will uphold your cause and take vengeance for you. I will dry up her sea and make her fountain dry. Babylon will become heaps, a dwelling for jackals, a horror and a hissing uninhabited. They roar together like young lions, growl like lions' cubs. When they become hot, I will set out a banquet for them. They will make them so drunk that they become merry, and then sleep a perpetual sleep and never wake. It is a declaration of Adonai. I will drag them down like lambs to the slaughter, like rams with he-goats. How has Sheshach been taken, the praise of the whole earth seized? How has Babylon become a horror among the nations? The sea has risen over Babylon. She is covered with its roaring waves. Her cities became desolation, a dry land, a desert, uninhabited land, through which no son of man passes. I will punish Bel in Babylon. What he swallowed, I will make him disgorge out of his mouth. Nations will no longer stream to him. Yes, this wall of Babylon has fallen. Come out of her, my people, each of you. Save your soul from the fierce anger of Adonai. Do not be faint-hearted or intimidated by the rumor heard in this land. 1 year, one rumor comes, next year another rumor. Yet violence will be in the land, with a ruler against ruler. Therefore, behold, days are coming when I will punish Babylon's idols. Her entire land will be disgraced, and her slain will fall in her midst. Then heaven and earth and all that is in them will sing for joy over Babylon, for the destroyers from the north will come to her. It is a declaration of Adonai. Yes, Babylon is to fall for the slain of Israel, even as the slain of all the earth fell to Babylon. Escapes from the sword, go. Do not stand still. Remember Adonai from afar, and make Aliyah to Jerusalem in your heart. We were ashamed when we heard reproach. Disgrace has covered our faces, for foreigners entered the holy places of Adonai's house. Therefore, behold, days are coming. It is declaration of Adonai when I will punish her idols, and the wounded will groan throughout all her land. Even if Babylon went up to heaven, and even if she fortified the height of her stronghold, from me destroyers will come to her. It is a declaration of Adonai. The sound of an outcry from Babylon, great ruin from the land of... For Adonai is devastating Babylon, and will silence her loud voice. Their waves will roar like many waters. The noise of their voices will resound, for destroyers coming against her, against Babylon, and her warriors will be captured, their bows broken. For Adonai is a God of restitution. He will fully repay. I will intoxicate her officials and sages, her governors, deputies, and warriors, and they will sleep like a perpetual sleep and not awake. It is a declaration of the king, whose name is Adonai Zavat. Thus says Adonai Zavat, Babylon's thick wall will be totally razed and her high gates burning with fire, so the peoples are toiling for nothing, and nations weary themselves for fire. The word which Jeremiah the prophet commanded Seraiah, son of Neriah, son of Messiah, when he went with King Zedekiah of Judah to Babylon in the 4th year of his reign. Now Seraiah was a quartermaster, and Jeremiah wrote in a single scroll all the evil that would come to Babylon, including all these words that were written about Babylon. Then Jeremiah said to Seraiah, when you arrive in Babylon, and then see that you read all these words, and say, Adonai, you have spoken concerning this place to cut it off, that nothing will dwell there, neither man nor beast, but that it will be desolate forever. And now when you have finished reading this scroll, you will tie a stone to it and throw it into the middle of the Euphrates. Then you will say, thus will Babylon sink and not rise again, because of the calamity that I will bring on her. So they will weary themselves. Thus far are the words of Jeremiah. Jeremiah chapter 52. Babylon destroys Jerusalem. Zedekiah was 21 years old when he became king, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Humatal, the daughter of Jeremiah of Libnah, and he did what was evil in Adonai's eyes, just like Jehoiakim had done. Because of Adonai's anger, it came to the point in Jerusalem and Judah that he had cast them out. He had them cast out of his presence. So Zedekiah rebelled against the king of Babylon. It came to pass in the 9th year of his reign, in the 10th month, the 10th day of the month, that King Nebuchadrezzar of Babylon came, he and all his army, against Jerusalem and besieged it. They built a siege wall around it, so the city was besieged until the 11th year of King Zedekiah in the 4th month. The 9th day of the month, the famine was so severe in the city that there was no food for the people in the land. And the city was broken in two. And all the men of war fled, going out of the city by night by the way of the gate between the two walls, which was near the king's garden. Even though the Chaldeans were all around the city, they were heading along the way of Arabah. But the Chaldean army pursued the king and overtook Zedekiah in the desert plains of Jericho. Then all his army was scattered from him, and they took the king and brought him up to the king of Babylon at Riblah in the land of Hamath. He passed judgment on him. At Riblah, the king of Babylon slaughtered Zedekiah's sons before his eyes, and also the Judean leaders. Then he put out Zedekiah's eyes. Then the king of Babylon bound him in bronze chains and brought him to Babylon, where he put him in prison until the day of his death. Now in the 5th month, the 10th day of the month, which was the 19th year of King Nebuchadrezzar, king of Babylon, Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, came into Jerusalem to represent the king of Babylon. Then he burned the house of Adonai, the king's house, and all the houses of Jerusalem. He burned every large house with fire. Then the Chaldean army, which was the captain of the guard, broke down all the walls of Jerusalem all around. Then Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, carried into exile some of the poorest of the people. The rest of the people who were left in the city, the deserters who had defected to the king of Babylon, and what remained of the craftsmen. But Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, left some of the poorest of the land to the vine dressers and plowmen. The Chaldeans smashed the bronze pillars of the house of Adonai, the stands, and the bronze seat that were in the house of Adonai, and carried all the bronze to Babylon, the pots, the shovels, the wick trimmers, the basins, the pans, and all the bronze articles for the temple service that they took away, the cups, the fire pans, the basins, the pots, the menorah, the pans, the drink offering bowls, whatever was gold or silver, the captain of the guard took away. As for 2 pillars, 1 sea, and 12 bronze bowls that were under the stands that King Solomon had made for the house of Adonai, all these articles had bronze beyond weighing. The height of 1 pillar was 18 cubits, and it was 12 cubits in circumference, with 4 fingers in thickness. It was hollow. There was a bronze capital on it. The height of 1 capital was 5 cubits, with lattice work and pomegranates upon the capital all around, all of bronze. The 2nd pillar was the same, with pomegranates. There were 96 pomegranates on the outside, including all the pomegranates around the lattice. There were 100. Then the captain of the guard took Seraiah, the Kohen Gadol, and Zephaniah, the 2nd Kohen, and 3 doorkeepers. From the city he took an officer who had been appointed over the men of war, as well as 7 men who saw the king's face, who were found in the city, the scribe of the commander of the army, who enlisted the people of the land, and 60 men of the people of the land who were found within the city. Nebuzaradan, captain of the guard, took them and brought them to the king of Babylon to Riblah. The king of Babylon struck them down and put them to death at Riblah in the land of Hamath. Then Judah was led away into exile from its land. These are the people whom Nebuchadrezzar carried away captive in the 7th year, 3,023 Jews. In Nebuchadrezzar's 18th year, 832 people from Jerusalem. In Nebuchadrezzar's 23rd year, Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, exiled 745 of the Jews, altogether 4,600 people. Release of King Jehoiakim. Now it came to pass on the 25th day of the 12th month of the 37th year of the captivity of Judah's king Jehoiachin, that King Evil-Merodach of Babylon, in the 1st year of his reign, lifted up the head of Judah's king Jehoiakim and released him out of prison. He spoke kindly to him and gave him the throne above the throne of the king who were with him in Babylon. And then he changed out of his prison garments, dined regularly before him all the days of his life. As for his allowance, a regular allowance was given to him by the king of Babylon, a portion for each day until the day of his death, all the days of his life.